In its current form, modern-day China is an atheistic state where no state religion is practiced, and the citizens don't adhere strongly to any of the traditional religious beliefs that underpin the nation's long history. Wars of religion are typically associated with Europe and the Middle East, where wars in China are often seen as being for land and resources. This, however, is not the case. Historically, China has been a devoutly religious society, and many of the most pivotal conflicts in Chinese history owe to a religious cause. In this video, I'm going to outline some of the largest religious conflicts in China's long history. Let's begin. But first, if you like these in-depth videos about China's history, please consider subscribing to my Patreon page for as little as $5 a month. It does a lot to keep this channel going to pay for upkeep required for software, equipment, and time spent making these videos. Thanks. Now back to the video. The Yellow Turban Rebellion was a massive peasant uprising that broke out in 184 AD during the late Eastern Han Dynasty. This revolt marked the beginning of a period of civil unrest that contributed significantly to the fall of the Han Dynasty and the eventual rise of the Three Kingdoms period. The rebellion's name is derived from the yellow headscarves worn by the rebels, symbolizing the Taoist teachings of Zhang Jue, the leader of the Taoist cult known as the Way of Supreme Peace. Taoism considered yellow a sacred color, representing the earth element in the Wu Xing, or the Five Elements theory. The Yellow Turban Rebellion was primarily a response to widespread socio-economic distress and corruption within the Han Dynasty, particularly stemming from the embedded eunuch deep state that had become more powerful than the emperor. These conditions led to extreme poverty among peasants. Frequent floods, droughts, and plagues further exacerbated the suffering of the peasantry. The bureaucracy, court officials, and eunuchs were more concerned with power struggles against one another, and as the empire spiraled into decline, the population came into the grips of a religious reactionary movement inspired by the teachings of a new Taoist sect known as the Way of Supreme Peace, which prophesied the end of times, the end of the corrupt regime, and the establishment of a utopian society. The message resonated deeply with the suffering peasants who saw Zhang Jue as the savior. The rebellion began in 184 AD when Zhang Jue and his brothers Zhang Bao and Zhang Liang mobilized their followers across the provinces of Hebei, Henan, and Shandong. The rebels wore yellow turbans as their distinguishing mark and rallied under the banner of the Heavenly Way, or the Way of Supreme Peace. The initial phase of the rebellion saw rapid success as the rebels captured key cities and towns, exploiting the element of surprise and the disorganized state of the local Han forces. The rebellion quickly spread across the northern provinces, threatening the Han capital of Luoyang. The Han government's response, though initially disjointed, gradually gained momentum. The combined efforts of various military commanders, along with internal divisions and supply issues amongst the rebels, led to the gradual suppression of the uprising. One of the decisive battles was fought at Xiangyang, where government forces under Zhu Jun and Huang Fusong inflicted a major defeat on the rebels. This victory significantly weakened the rebel forces. Zhang Jue fell ill and later died, which dealt a severe blow to the rebels' morale and leadership. The Yellow Turban Rebellion had profound and lasting effects on the Han Dynasty and Chinese history. The rebellion significantly weakened the central authority of the Han Dynasty, leading to regional warlords gaining power as they were entrusted with military responsibilities to quell the uprising. This decentralization of power contributed to the fragmentation of the dynasty, leading to figures like Cao Cao, Sun Jian, and Liu Bei emerging to the fore as influential warlords. Their power struggles and territorial ambitions eventually led to the division of China into the Three Kingdoms, Wei, Shu, and Wu. The rebellion devastated large swathes of northern China, leading to population displacement, economic disruption, and further impoverishment of the peasantry. The Way of Supreme Peace and similar Taoist movements continued to influence Chinese religious and cultural thought from this time onwards, with millenarianism, or the belief in an imminent end time followed by a messiah and a 1,000-year reign of heaven on earth, persisting in Chinese popular religion and folklore. This theme will continue to re-emerge throughout this video. The Five Pecks of Rice Rebellion was a religious and political uprising that took place during the late Eastern Han Dynasty between 142 and 220 AD. The movement was founded by Zhang Daliang, a Taoist priest who established a theocratic state in the region of Hanzhong, modern-day Sichuan province. Zhang Daoling's teachings were deeply rooted in Taoism, emphasizing spiritual purity, health, and a connection to the natural world. Followers of the movement were required to contribute 5 pecks of rice as a form of membership fee, which is where the rebellion derives its name. Zhang Daoling claimed to have received divine revelations from Lao Tzu, the semi-mythical founder of Taoism, who appointed him as the celestial master known as Tianshu and tasked him with spreading the teachings of Tao. The movement promoted the idea of attaining spiritual immortality through self-cultivation, moral integrity, and adherence to Taoist rituals. Central to the 5 pecks of rice movement was the practice of healing and exorcism. Zhang Daoling and his followers were renowned for their abilities to cure illnesses and ward off malevolent spirits through the use of Taoist rituals, incantations, and talismans. These practices not only addressed the physical ailments of the people, but also their spiritual needs, making the movement highly attractive to those suffering from the social and economic turmoil of the time. Zhang Daoling's followers, motivated by their religious beliefs and loyalty, supported his efforts to expand the movement's territory. This expansion inevitably led to conflicts with the Han government, which viewed the growing power of the 5 pecks of rice movement as a significant threat to its own authority. The Han dynasty, already weakened by internal strife and other rebellions, struggled to maintain control over the increasingly autonomous region. One of the most notable conflicts was resistance against the Han general Cao Cao, who would later become one of the most powerful warlords during the Three Kingdoms period. Cao Cao recognized the strategic importance of the Hanzhong region and sought to bring it under his control. In 215 AD, Cao Cao launched a military campaign against the region. Despite initial resistance, the 5 pecks of rice rebels were eventually defeated. The successor of Zhang Daoling, Zhang Lu, was recognized for his influence and the loyalty he commanded, so Cao Cao treated him with respect and integrated him into his administration, allowing Zhang Lu to retain some of his followers and their religious practices. The Red Turban Rebellions were a series of uprisings that took place in China during the 14th century between 1351 and 1368 AD, and played a significant role in the decline of the Mongol-led Yuan dynasty and the rise of the Ming dynasty. The rebellions were heavily influenced by millenarian and apocalyptic beliefs, particularly those propagated by the White Lotus Society, a Buddhist secret society that doubled as a Han nationalist movement amid the Mongol suppression of Chinese Han identity. The White Lotus Society was rooted in the belief in the Maitreya Buddha, a future Buddha who would come to Earth once all the teachings of the Buddha had been forgotten, to bring about an era of heaven on Earth. This millenarian belief promised an end to the suffering and corruption experienced under the Yuan dynasty, which resonated deeply with the oppressed and impoverished populace. The Red Turban Rebellions were marked by prophetic visions and mystical experiences, leading to a simple cloth peddler named Shu Shouhui to be dubbed as the prophesied Messiah, who would be crowned as the leader of the Red Turbans. His followers would then go to war with a rival Red Turban faction led by Zhu Yuanzhang. With the Yuan dynasty greatly weakened due to years of decline, the conflict between the two Red Turban sects would become one over who would become the successor to the Chinese nation. This culminated in the largest naval battle of all time, known as the Battle of Lake Poyang. The battle was marked by several strategic and tactical maneuvers, with both sides employing a combination of traditional naval warfare techniques and innovative tactics. Zhu Yuanzhang's forces utilized smaller, more maneuverable ships, allowing them to execute rapid and precise attacks against the larger, less agile vessels of the enemy leader Chen Youliang. One of the key strategies employed by Zhu Yuanzhang's fleet was the use of fire ships, boats filled with flammable materials, set ablaze and sent into the enemy's formation to cause chaos and destruction. The turning point came when Chen Youliang himself was killed in battle, leading to a collapse in the morale and cohesion of his forces. Following his death, Zhu Yuanzhang's fleet decisively defeated the remnants of Chen Youliang's navy, securing a crucial victory. The Battle of Lake Poyang was not only the largest naval battle in the Red Turban Rebellion, but also one of the largest in history. The victory solidified Zhu Yuanzhang's position as a leading power in southern China and paved the way for his eventual unification of the country. In 1368, Zhu Yuanzhang proclaimed himself as the Hongwu Emperor and established the Ming dynasty, bringing an end to the Yuan dynasty's rule. Zhu Yuanzhang's rise to power was seen as the fulfillment of the millenarian prophecies that had motivated many of the Red Turban followers, as he had thrown off the shackles of the Mongol oppressors and established the golden age of the Ming dynasty, marked by adherence to Buddhist teachings and Confucian statecraft. The multi-century-long White Lotus society would re-emerge once again during the foreign occupation of the Manchu people and their Qing dynasty in the White Lotus Rebellion, which erupted between 1794 and 1804. This secret society, formed over 800 years prior, had become the vanguard in ensuring survival of the Han people's way of life under foreign rule, and once again preached of the end times and the imminent return of the Maitreya Buddha to bring on an age of utopia. Preaching of salvation for the faithful, the impoverished peasants who made up the ranks of the faithful believed that by living a pure life they could hasten the arrival of this utopian age. Additionally, the White Lotus Society's religious beliefs were closely tied to notions of divine justice and moral retribution. The Qing dynasty was depicted as inherently corrupt and morally bankrupt, making its overthrow not just a political necessity but a divine imperative. This moral dimension of the rebellion attracted a wide range of disaffected individuals, not just impoverished peasants, but disenfranchised scholars and former military personnel, all of whom sought both spiritual and temporal liberation. The promise of a new, divinely sanctioned order where justice and equity would prevail was a powerful draw for those suffering under the heavy taxation and harsh conditions imposed by the Qing authorities. The 8 Trigrams Uprising, which erupted in 1813 AD during the late Qing dynasty, was a significant revolt led by a branch of the White Lotus Society called the 8 Trigram sect. The sect, deeply rooted in Chinese folk religion and Taoist mysticism, drew its name and philosophical basis from the ancient I Ching, also known as the Book of Changes in English. Specifically, its use of 8 trigrams to interpret cosmic patterns and guide decision-making. The aim of the revolt, like others before and after it, was to resolve the economic grievances suffered by the population to overthrow the Qing and restore the Ming dynasty. Just like the previous White Lotus-inspired rebellions, it promised an apocalypse, a messiah, and a heaven on earth. The rebellion was meticulously planned and coordinated, with the insurgents aiming to capture the Forbidden City and overthrow the Qing government. The leaders of the 8 Trigram sect, which included Lin Qing and Li Wenchang, portrayed themselves as divinely inspired figures with a mandate to restore harmony and justice. Their spiritual authority and charismatic leadership helped galvanize a broad base of followers who believed that the rebellion was both a religious duty and a path to liberation from oppressive rule. The uprising began with simultaneous attacks on key cities, including an audacious assault on the imperial palace itself, which brought the rebels within striking distance of the Qing emperor. Despite the initial success and the shock they delivered to the Qing authorities, the rebellion ultimately faced overwhelming military retaliation. The Qing government, caught off guard by the sudden and well-coordinated nature of the uprising, responded with a brutal crackdown. Loyalist forces, bolstered by reinforcements, managed to quash the rebellion through a combination of strategic counterattacks and ruthless suppression of suspected insurgents. The leaders of the 8 Trigram sect were captured and executed, and the rebellion was effectively crushed within a few months. The Taiping Rebellion, which spanned from 1850 to 1864, is the third deadliest conflict in human history, just behind World War I and World War II. It was initiated by Hong Shou-chuen, a failed scholar who, after experiencing a series of visions and coming into contact with Christian missionary teachings, proclaimed himself the younger brother of Jesus Christ. Hong's revelations led him to believe he was destined to overthrow the Qing dynasty and establish a new divine kingdom called the Heavenly Kingdom of Great Peace. The Taiping religion combined elements of Christianity with traditional Chinese millenarianism based on that advocated by the White Lotus Society. It became inundated with acolytes of the White Lotus Society while absorbing a significant number of triad members. The Taiping faith rejected the Confucian-based Qing dynasty as corrupt and immoral, advocating instead for a society based on egalitarian principles, communal ownership of property, and strict moral codes. The religious fervor of the Taiping movement attracted tens of millions of followers in southern China, where Christian missionaries from the West had laid the foundation of Christian teachings. The Taiping forces fought with a ferocious zeal as they were daily inundated with the teachings that they were living in the days of the apocalypse and the Messiah himself was leading them to a new Jerusalem where they would establish heaven on earth. The Taiping fought their way out of the rural, backwards countryside of Guangxi to the cosmopolitan and historical capital of Nanjing, which was declared the capital and the prophesied New Jerusalem where they attempted to build a utopia. In a daring move, the Taiping, who controlled much of South China, moved north to attempt to capture Beijing and dethrone the emperor. But after their momentum was stalled, the entire weight of the empire fell upon them. The Qing utilized the entirety of its resources to fight the Taiping, even allying with Western powers whose enclaves in Shanghai were under attack. After a series of brutal campaigns and 20 to 30 million deaths, the Taiping were eventually defeated. But the effect of the war was so devastating that the rate of the Qing's decline went into freefall, and it came to be the most devastating event in the Qing era. Although the Taiping religion was eradicated, the White Lotus Society adherents, the Triads, and other Hongmen secret societies continued to flourish and be a source of rebellion during the Qing era. The Boxer Rebellion, which occurred between 1899 and 1901, was started by a group known in English as the Boxers, but officially known in Chinese as the Society of Righteous and Harmonious Fists. Deeply rooted in Chinese folk religion, Taoism, and martial arts traditions, they believed that through rigorous physical training in martial arts and Taoist rituals that they could achieve invincibility against swords and even bullets. The Boxers saw themselves as defenders of Chinese spiritual and cultural purity against foreign influence, particularly Christian missionary activity, which they viewed as a direct threat to their traditional way of life. The movement was characterized by a blend of animalistic and shamanistic practices, invoking spirits and gods for protection and strength in battle. Anti-Christian sentiment was a significant component of their religious ideology, as they perceived Christian converts and missionaries as agents of imperialist encroachment that disrupted local traditions and social structures. The Boxers' religious fervor and xenophobic zeal led to widespread attacks on foreign nationals, Chinese Christians, and symbols of Western influence, culminating in a violent uprising that was only quelled by an international coalition of military forces. Violence escalated dramatically in 1900 AD, with Boxers attacking foreign missionaries, Chinese Christians, and other foreigners in northern China. Their aggression culminated in the Foreign Legation Quarter in Beijing, where diplomats, soldiers, and civilians from various Western nations and Japan took refuge. The Qing court, under Empress Dowager Cixi, initially vacillated between suppressing the Boxers and supporting their cause. Ultimately, the court decided to support the Boxers, hoping to use their anti-foreign zeal to drive out the foreign powers. In response, an international coalition known as the Eight-Nation Alliance, comprising of Japan, Russia, Britain, France, the United States, Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary, mobilized to relieve the siege and restore order. The coalition forces launched a military campaign that swiftly defeated the Boxers and lifted the siege of the legations in August 1900. The Allied forces proceeded to occupy Beijing and imposed a harsh settlement on the Qing government through the Boxer Protocol of 1901. This treaty demanded heavy indemnities, the execution of government officials who had supported the Boxers, and the stationing of foreign troops in Beijing and other strategic locations. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you like these videos, please consider subscribing to my Patreon for as little as $5 a month. It keeps this channel alive and allows me to post more regularly. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you can feel free to message me about any question you have regarding Chinese history or give suggestions about what kind of video you want to see next. And if you aren't subscribed already, make sure to give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.